welcome to MCN. And today we're going to have a rather nice day riding Kawasaki's new Ninja 1100 SX SE, and there's one there now. We're here in Spain at its world launch. We're going to be riding around the mountain roads, but before we do that, let's have a little look at what the changes are for 2025. So these are the bikes we're going to be riding today. Ninja 1100 SX. So this is still basically the bike we all know and love, that's been around since 2011 and has been developed along the way, and it's evolved into a very, very capable sports tourer. The main changes for this year, as the name would suggest, is now an 1100. The capacity's gone up from 1043 to 1099 cc, and that's due to a 3mm longer stroke. Power's actually down a smidge this year from 140 bhp to 134, but thanks to a heavier crank, milder cams, and that extra stroke, there's actually more oomph in the mid-range. Apart from that, it's very much the same bike, same ergonomics, same bodywork. But the big news for this year really is the fact there's an SE version available for the very first time. So the SE will give you an Öhlins rear shock, like that, Brembo calipers, braided lines, Brembo master cylinder, and heated grips as standard. As all Kawasaki's, the build quality is really, really nice. The owner's reviews on our website, if you look at those, nothing but glowing. So I think today we're going to have a very nice day. So I've spent a very pleasurable day riding the new Kawasaki Ninja 1100 SX SE here in Spain on the mountain roads near the Pyrenees. It's almost sunset. We've been riding almost since sunrise, and it's a fantastic sports tourer. And if you don't want to go any more than this, then I really, really like it. But I'll give you the reasons why. But before I do that, for anyone that hasn't ridden the Ninja 1000 SX before, just a kind of a quick recap about that, because like I said at the beginning, it's been around since 2011, and it's kind of been the best sports tourer in that time until now. You can kind of call it a conventional sports tourer, and what I mean by that is it's a sports bike that's comfortable basically, as opposed to kind of the new generation of sports tourers which are all-rounders like Tracers and GSX 1000, GXs, multi-stradas, that kind of thing. And in simple terms, this is a comfortable sports bike. So just think of it in those terms. The Ninja 1000, very fast, handled well. The handling's kind of improved by the fact that it is laid out like a sports bike. You've got quite a lot of weight over the front wheel, although it's not very wristy. So you've got quite a lot of accuracy turning into corners. You've got this really nice sloped screen. This is four-way adjustable as well, manually, which works really, really well. And these slide through the wind a lot nicer than a all-rounder as well. So you get very minimal buffeting. It's very smooth, it's very refined, the paint finishes are absolutely superb. Like I said in the beginning as well, the owner's reviews are really, really positive, dealer backup's brilliant, it's well equipped, it's just fantastic. And that's the reason why in later days, when it's faced competition like Suzuki's new GSX 1000 GT, and you can see a review against the GT and the Ninja 1000 elsewhere on our YouTube channel, you can see why this beat the Suzuki. It's much more refined, it's smoother, it's more together, it's more fluid to ride, and its other real challenger really in terms of conventional sports bikes or conventional sports tourers would be the BMW R1250 RS, which is a hugely underrated bike. It's absolutely fantastic, but it's a little bit left field and a little bit quirky. And if you want something you can just get on and just understand straight away and it just be completely natural, then the Kawasaki is it. It's really comfortable. it's got very few bad points. So let's talk about the 1100. It is very, very similar, and I think in a lot of ways, especially performance wise, you're going to need to test old and new back to back. So I'd say if you've got the 1000, there's no real need to go out and trade your bike in against this. So if we talk about the individual kind of improvements, first of all, talk about that engine. So like I said at the beginning, this engine is bigger, got more cc's. On paper, it's got less power, but throughout all the riding today, I've never hit the red line. So really, you know, whether it's got 140 bhp or whether it's got 134 is more or less irrelevant. It's got a lot of grunt. Again, you need to ride it back to back to really notice the difference. There isn't a huge difference between the two engines, even though this is bigger. And you know, that's basically because Kawasaki have had to stick a load of Euro 5 gubbins up its exhaust pipes to get it through all the regulations. So kind of power-wise, power delivery, not a lot of difference. It is very smooth. When we were riding it earlier on this morning at a kind of a low pace, it felt a little bit snatchy, the engine, quite a lot of engine braking, quite a lot of hesitation on the throttle. But as the day's gone on and we've kind of picked up the pace a little bit, that feeling's gone away. So they were the initial impressions, but I think overall the engine's really nice. It's got a longer 5th and 6th gear. So, you know, some of the older versions of this, you were kind of searching for 7th and you're not anymore. So it's kind of very relaxed. And the quick shifter works really well. Again, this morning when we were going slowly and when the bike was cold, the quick shifter didn't work that smoothly, but you know, once the pace picks up and once everything's nice and warm, then it works really, really beautifully. Other little detail changes include heavier bar ends, which I spoke about this morning, but we've also discovered that it's got rubber weights on the heel plates of the pegs and actual bits of lead in the foot pegs themselves, all to get rid of vibration. And yeah, this engine's kind of got that kind of power station, quite raw feel to it. You know, when you thrash this bike, it sounds like a super bike. So I think Kawasaki have done a good job to kind of dampen some of the vibes, and it is completely vibe free. The other thing, it's got Bridgestone S23 tyres. Now these won't be the real S23s, these are OE versions. Later on during the day today, with the pace picked up, absolutely no problem with grip. Really, really, really good. But this morning when it was cold and we weren't going so fast, the tyres take a long time to warm up. You know, anything above kind of 10 degrees air temperature, they weren't very good at all, especially the front. Yeah, at the beginning, I thought there was something wrong with the suspension because it just wants to understeer everywhere. But it was basically having to wait for the tyres to warm up. And once they do, and you can put some weight through the tyres, put some heat through the tyres, everything's fine. And they're really, really good. Although, being a sports tourer, I would probably put sports touring tyres on this bike. A, for longer life. B, sports touring tyres last forever now. And C, they warm up nice and quick. You know, I've spoken a lot about the sporty nature of this bike. You can really grab it by the scruff of the neck, but it's a touring bike as well. It is sportily laid out with quite a lot of weight on your wrists, and your feet are quite high up on the pegs, but really, really comfortable. The way this bike kind of spreads your weight is really nice. I actually think it's more comfortable than I had a Kawasaki H2SX as a long-termer a few years ago, and that was really sporty. So this is much more relaxed, much more spacious. Can't say what the rear seat's going to be like because we didn't test it, but it looks pretty chunky, and we've had no kind of adverse reports on our MCN owners reviews that it's too uncomfortable on the back. But one reason that owners of the 1000 might want to go to the 1100 is because of this SE model. For the first time, Kawasaki are kind of introducing a bling version of one of their bikes. They do it with a lot of their other models. And as I said before, it's heated grips, and the heated grips are absolutely fantastic. 3-stage, it was really, really cold this morning. And they're, you know, some of the best heated grips that come on any standard road bike. So that's a big tick. Then down here, we've got the Brembo calipers. Again, we said before, Japanese ABS takes some of the kind of the joy out of the braking feel of most bike setups. These Brembos are good, but I didn't think to myself, wow, this has got amazing brakes. It just kind of felt quite similar to the Ninja 1000. So the brakes aren't really a deal breaker, but they look nice and they're a nice thing to have. They don't make the bike any worse, that's for sure. And then the other big thing, perhaps quite contentious, is the Öhlins rear shock. So it looks beautiful. It gives the bike a really nice ride quality, although I think you could improve the ride quality even more with nicer tyres, like proper replacement sports or sports tyres. I think you'd really make the ride a lot plusher. It's adjustable, it's got a nice preload knob, so you can adjust that quite easily. And I think if you're just looking at this as a sports bike, then I would imagine it's an improvement. Again, it's hard to say without testing old versus new back to back, but I think you'll have an improvement in the feel of the bike, the amount of grip that the shock ends up giving the tyres, and everything in between. But as a sports tourer, as a bike that you want to be able to change from riding in a sporty way to riding on the motorway, to riding in the wet, to riding two up, I think Kawasaki have missed a little bit of a trick. On their Versys, which is basically this bike on stilts, more or less, they've got electronic suspension, and that works within the riding modes, or you can set it through the dash to work in different ways, and that will give you multiple bikes in one. That will let you take a pillion without you having to do anything other than press a button on the switchgear. It will let you find grip in the wet. It will give you a more comfortable ride on the motorway, and it'll give you more control in the corners. And I think that's what a sports tourer needs. So although it'd be very hard pushed to tell the difference between electronic suspension and this setup on any given piece of road, there wouldn't actually be a lot of difference. The best thing about electronic suspension is that you can change the bike's behaviour very easily, which you can do on this. So riding today on my own, there's no way I'd want to change the suspension. It feels absolutely fine. But if I was going to plonk somebody on the back of it, then I'd have to go manually and wind the preload up. I may need to add some preload to the front forks. I may need to add some compression damping. Then I've got my pillion set up, but then I might want to have a comfortable ride on the motorway. Then I might want to soften the suspension up. So, you know, bike with mechanically adjustable suspension like this is always a compromise. It's always works best for how you've got it set at that particular moment. So while this setup is good, if you're just going to do sporty riding solo, I think the Öhlins option is a really good idea. But if you're going to have pillion, if you're going to have luggage, if you're going to do a lot of sports touring, then I think electronic suspension may have been better. Kawasaki say that they didn't go down that road really because they didn't want to add a lot of cost to this bike. But I guess if you're going to pay a little bit extra for the SE model, then you might want to go the extra mile. And if you do want that kind of flexibility in a sports tourer, then probably the Versys 1100 would be the one to go for. And it's kind of taller, it's a little bit roomier. So, but you know, just a very, very small complaint. The Ninja 1100 SX and SE are going to be available in dealers in the UK in December 2024. It's 12,249 for the base bike and 13,999 for the SE model. And with that SE model, you've got all the goodies like a colour dash, got cornering traction control, cornering ABS, that really lovely up and down quick shifter, cruise control, heated grips. And then on top of that, there are different versions. There's a performance version, there's a tourer version, a performance tourer version. And with those versions, you get everything from panniers to different screens to tank pads and all the goodies, different pipes and everything in between. That one hasn't got one. That's just got the standard pipe. But overall, I think that this bike is fantastic. It's still the best sports tourer, like conventional shaped sports tourer money can buy. It's a lot of bike for the money. It's kind of more towards sporty riding and touring, but it does both really, really well. It's beautifully finished in the sunshine earlier. This metallic green paint job just looks absolutely amazing. They're very reliable, very robust, just does everything you want. I think Kawasaki missed a bit of a trick by not putting electronic suspension on the top of the range model, but I think Öhlins is not a bad sacrifice to make.